little bit different. So here's Cinders, aka Frantic Feminist Fairy Tale. Or something else that begins with F.
The premise of Cinders is pretty simple. You play as a young woman living with your cruel stepmother and stepsisters, and, desperate to escape this terrible life, you strive to find a way to change your destiny, and maybe get the happy ending you've always dreamed of.
Yeah, it's Cinderella, but with a surprisingly modern feminist twist.
See, instead of waiting to be saved by a Prince Ex Machina, you're tasked with finding your own path to a better, happier life. Will you lie and cheat your way into reclaiming your stolen inheritance? Will you call upon unspeakable, unearthly occult forces to lend you their aid? Or will you just say screw it and get the hell out of yon Dodge? The choice is yours. As the game likes to remind us, you have to take charge of your life to change anything.
But kid, this is an otage, isn't it? Let's hear about all the cute boys you can get with.
Characters Romance.
Alright, so there are a lot of characters in this game, and only a few you can romance. Along the way, you'll discover that the characters you thought you knew were actually far more troubled and complex than the old tale may have made them appear. And behind every seeming caricature is a human being with needs, dreams, and fears. So let's dive into that mass of human beings, because holy crap are there a lot of them. First off, we have Prince Basil. Basil? Prince Baz is the young, idealistic heir to the throne, a compassionate soul who dreams of dismantling the monarchy and bringing his country into a democracy, something no monarch has ever once said ever. He dreams of a time when peaceful negotiations will replace bloody warfare, and when even the lowliest peasant has a roast on their table and 2 horses in their stable. And, depending on how much of a bitch you decide to be, you can either assist him in his endeavour, or go full-on let-him-eat-cake despot until said peasants rise up and revolt.
He's a nice guy, if a bit weak-willed, but due to the fact he's a prince, Cinders doesn't get to interact with him much, and his lack of screen time leaves him feeling kind of one-dimensional and trite. He's technically your main romance option, but...
Tobias, I'm just gonna call him Toby, is your non-threatening childhood friend. He's an eloquent, quick-witted businessman whose common sense has made him one of the longest-running merchants in town. The two of you were inseparable as children, but after your father's death, you've grown distant, and he has no idea of the horrible conditions you live in. He's kind of bland and boring, unless you're super aggressive, in which case he comes out of his shell, and the two of you spend all your dialogue talking about all the super hot, best friends make the best lovers shagging you've been doing. However, too much aggression will make him question whether you truly feel for him, or are just trying to sex your way into his wallet. Captain Perrault. Is that his first name or his last name? The battle-hardened veteran and Prince's most trusted advisor. He's a gruff, straight-talking military man who looks like a dad at a Renfest.
Ayy!
And spends most of his off-duty time brooding at the local tavern. Thanks to the prince's ask questions first and shoot later policy, his much-touted warrior skills are becoming less useful, and he fears that one day he may be totally obsolete. He's a very principled, upstanding guy who won't look too favorably on Cinders if she shows herself to be too uncaring towards her adoptive family.
He's the third and final bachelor, and as the one with the most belts and stubble, he automatically wins! Sorry, I don't make the rules.
And that's it for the Bishy Buffet. Yeah, there are only 3 romanceable characters. But, like I said, that's not what this game is really about. Finding love is important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And, depending on the player, romance just might not be on the table. In the end, love's just another variable in Cinders' life, a single aspect of her journey towards happiness. She can be happy with a lover, or without, and that's kind of refreshing. As for the supporting cast, first off, there's Carmosa. Your wicked stepmother is more of a hardened cynic than an outright monster. She's a scheming, manipulative woman who knows that society isn't always fair, and will do whatever it takes to make sure her daughters can live comfortably. Sure, she's still kind of an asshole, but in a world where being a poor, single woman is akin to a death sentence, sometimes you've just got to be an asshole to survive. Gloria, a girl who strives to be as iron-fisted and calculating as her mother. Beneath her steely shell lies an unsure girl who doesn't have enough faith in herself to carve her own path in life. She holds a regimented lifestyle with strict rules above all else, and has a tendency to crumble into confusion when the rules start to fall apart. Sophia, our charming, gorgeous medieval Daria. A vastly intelligent girl who suffers from a massive inferiority complex and a general vitriol against everyone and anyone. She lashes out at others to make herself feel better, caught in a cycle of self-hate and cynicism, but underneath, she may just have a heart.
I kind of wish there was some kind of romantic route with her, or at least a way to spend more time with her.
Then there's this game's fairy godmother, who's portrayed as a mysterious, ethereal figure, with hair as white as driven snow, and skin as white as pure spun silk, and eyes as white as— oh Jesus Christ, what the hell! While her eldritch powers may just give you the leg up on life you've been looking for, she only talks in creepy, pretentious edicts, and almost outright tells you that taking advantage of her magic will almost certainly get you killed, or worse, at some point down the line.
She also implies that she made the same kind of Faustian monkey paw contract with your mother, and that's probably how she died, and just, why would you take her advice? No! Don't do it! She'll turn you into a fucking newt or something!
Madame Jade, a traveling witch who stirs fear and mistrust in almost everyone she meets, she's nevertheless a vastly intelligent woman whose skills with the supernatural may or may not be real. She has a somewhat hardened, world-weary attitude, but it gives her a fairly appealing mix of realism and optimism. In fact, first ending I ever got was to skip town with her and go on interracial lesbian witch adventures. Hell yeah!
I'd trust in a straight-talking black chick over creepy, floaty, no-eyes Galadriel any day.
And last, but certainly not least, yon shady gentleman. Or as I like to call him, Skeeves McGee. I love him. He staggers around half-drunk, smelling vaguely of piss and cologne, bringing with him an air of inappropriate hilarity as he gobbles out shitty evil goon cliches. So, as I was saying, it's really more of a— Hello. What's all this nonsense? Damn it, Skeeves, I'm trying to talk to— Oh, you're trying to get your willy wet, eh? Well, good for you stupid ginger virgin. Anyway, Javanese sandwiches. I'm mad hungover and I could really use something that isn't a kebab. Skeeves, we don't have kebabs. In fact, neither of those things even existed in medieval— Alright, I'm just gonna go to fucking Greg's and, I don't know, steal a cheese Danish or something. Despite his goonish appearance, he's actually far savvier and more of a player than he lets on. In fact, he may just be smart enough to outwit even the most powerful of beings. Either way, Skeeves is my bro, and I loves him to death. I kinda wish there was some kind of route with him, or at least more opportunities to talk to him, but it's fine. I'll just make a Skeeves ending myself. And crayon.
Holy shit, I think that was the longest character segment I've ever done. Fuck you, Cinders. Fuck you and your expansive, multifaceted cast. I mean, you know, why can't you just do what every other game does and have nerd, jock, and douche?
Gameplay.
On the surface, Cinders is just a straight-up visual novel. You read a lot of dialogue, you come to choices, you make certain decisions, and the story progresses based on what you chose. Under the hood, though, this game is far more complex and in-depth than it appears. And in order to try and explain that, I'm gonna need to start by talking about the endings, as dumb as that seems.
See, rather than having a specific ending for each romanceable character, endings are mainly dependent on the way Cinders chooses to deal with her situation. You have 4 main endings, each representing a different method of escape, and then within those 4 endings are dozens of variations, based on who Cinders fell in love with, who her friends were, and her general attitude towards life. For example, let's say she fell in love with the prince of the ball. Glass slippers, queen, you know the drill. But within that ending, there are many details that could change. Would she become a wise ruler or a sadistic tyrant? Would she turn to her sisters for advice or listen to someone else? Would she love the prince and be his faithful soulmate? Or would she be spending her evenings sneaking to yon captain's quarters and playing hideth yon sausage? But it's not just the endings that can change. The coding of this game is surprisingly complex. As well as having relationship points with every character imaginable, you also have several personality stats, all of which are invisible. The in-game choices are numerous, and based on your actions, Cinderella's dialogue throughout the game can also change drastically. Will she be an idealistic dreamer who believes in the power of fate? A sharp-tongued chess mistress who can talk her way into anyone's graces?
Or Queen, evil cuntmeister supreme, scourge of Moldavia, plague of all who wouldst fuck with you?
This might sound overdramatic, but it's shocking how Cinders' personality can vary so wildly between playthroughs. I remember playing a route as Perrault's trusted friend, a shining beacon in a sea of cynical, broken people. Then on the next playthrough, I went the douche route, and Perrault was physically disgusted by my sheer black-hearted lack of fucks for anyone else, and he actually had me executed. Jesus. This actually makes Cinders herself one of the game's best, and sometimes worst, characters. Each time I played through, she acted slightly differently, and seeing all the ways her personality could emerge absolutely fascinated me. Scenes I'd seen countless times before unfolded in radically different directions, as Cinders showed herself to be a dozen different kinds of woman. Despite their shared backstory, each alternate version of her evolved in a logical way. A pretty big feat to pull off. Thanks to this convoluted programming system, it's actually fairly hard to find a reliable walkthrough for each ending. Every choice you make affects your ending in some way, and accidentally being too rude or too sweet to a particular character can drastically change how the story plays out.
Luckily, Cinders is fairly self-aware as to his labyrinthine nature, and there's a handy-dandy little branch thingy that'll pop up and ding every time you hit a piece of dialogue that could have gone differently. Not only is this super helpful, but it also inspires you to take different approaches on future playthroughs.
Okay, so Glory is being a huge tit right now, but the little branch thing went boop. Maybe if I'm nicer to her, next time she'll actually talk to me like I'm a human being. I'll keep that in mind. The skip function also works pretty nicely, a necessity with a game that's this verbose and multifaceted. That said, it auto-stops every time there's a scene transition, which can be kind of a pain when you're trying to speed through huge chunks of the game.
Plus, some of the dialogue falls prey to what I'm going to call anime monologue syndrome. See, the main theme of this game is that no one is truly good or evil, and even those we see as angels or monsters are just flawed human beings trying to carve out their own piece of happiness. Which is freaking awesome, except that sometimes the game goes way too far out of its way to make sure you're getting the message.
Wow, Sophia, I never knew you'd had such a troubled childhood. I guess that in the end, your apparent fucknuggetry is just a desperate cry for help from a scared, vulnerable young woman. In fact, maybe we're all just scared, drifting through our lives and trying to make sense of a dark, chaotic world we live in. Not only that, but medieval patriarchy in particular treats women as little more than accessories to their husbands.
And so, you're being forced to try and game the system in a cold-hearted way just so you can try and make a living for yourself. And in the end, isn't that all anybody...
Yeah, you get the idea. It's a damn shame, too, because the dialogue in this game is so colorful and engaging, with every character having a distinct voice and attitude. Long conversations go by fairly quickly thanks to the sheer energy and skill of the writing, but these forced epiphany scenes just slam on the brakes and bring everything to an awkward, screechy halt as we listen to characters wax philosophical about the nature of human self-interest and of societal gender roles.
Presentation.
You've probably already noticed it, but this game is gorgeous. Everything has this Renaissance painting-y style where just the colors and the shadows and the lines and...
The backgrounds are vibrant and colorful and filled with just an insane amount of detail where it's really, really hard not to just stare at a random bush and ogle all the foliage and the dewdrops and oh my goodness me. The backgrounds are actually animated too, with trees that bend gently in the wind, fireplaces that flicker warmly, and tiny little dust sparkle thingies. Cinders, maybe? That float through the air like little itty-bitty fairy farts, and everything just looks so goddamn pretty that I want to make it into one of those old 90s screensavers. Everything in this game is just presented with such a level of care and polish. The dialogue boxes, the menus, character intros, even the frigging title screen is a gorgeous Art Nouveau tribute that slowly changes as you unlock more and more endings. Art and character animations are portrayed at a gorgeously smooth... Wait, what? 120 FPS?
What, can my eyes even see that fast? Shit, I should Google that.
The character art falls on a weird midpoint between comic book style and old-fashioned watercolor painting. The costumes are gorgeously detailed, and the character sprites are definitely varied, but sometimes their expressions seem a little weird to me, especially coupled with the animated mouth movements. Something about that weird smirky face Cinders always has just makes me feel odd. Also, Perrault just constantly looks confused by everything, even when he's angry, like maybe he's had a bit too much rum. The art style definitely took a while to grow on me, and even now, I can't really tell whether I like it or not. Still, I can say it's definitely different, and it feels refreshing to play an otoge that isn't drawn in your stereotypical anime manga style. As for the music, wow. It feels epic, fantastical, and always weaves itself in beautifully with the dialogue and art to create a captivating atmosphere. Born from a Decision is a particularly stunning piece, and when it plays alongside the last few scenes, it really spins everything into an epic fairy tale ending. The music feels grand, mysterious, and powerful, perfect for this kind of game. Fairy Tales is another great piece, setting the scene for a tale of far-off dreams and limitless possibilities.
Final thoughts.
Cinders is something vastly different as an Otome game. While in most games, the bad ending just means you're single. Because, of course, being alone is the worst fate a woman can suffer.
In Cinders, though, being alone is a legitimate and sometimes advantageous choice. There are so many variations, many of which end with Cinders either ignoring or failing romance, and in a lot of ways it's more of a fantasy story than a romance novel.
The story and the characters are just so different from anything I've played recently, and the art and music blow almost every other otoge I've reviewed so far out of the water. For an indie Otome game, Cinders is incredibly polished, with millions of little touches that make the game feel alive and vivid. It's very, very obvious that Cinders was a labor of love for its developers. And I kinda love it too. They set out to do something different, and that distinguishes it greatly. In a sea of Bishonen games about angsty teens and slice-of-life drama, something like this really stands out. Cinders does its own thing, and it does it damned well. If you're feeling burned out on Otome games, this might just be the breath of fresh air you need to remind yourself of just how varied and differently the genre can be done.
Otome games can be almost anything, and who knows, maybe this game will inspire other otoge developers to try something out of the ordinary.
Thanks for watching the episode. If you're interested in seeing more Otome-Nia, check out the videos above. On the left is the episode just before this one, And on the right is the very first episode, which is also the start of our playlist. If you want to keep up with new videos, subscribe to our channel. And of course, like, comment, and tell me what your thoughts on the game are. Or your thoughts on the video. Or your thoughts on Yaoi. It's all good.